You won't believe what gossip we're hearing up here on Capitol Hill. Welcome to Sources Say. Hey everyone, it's Julie Grace Brucky. Welcome to the Sources Say podcast. We're here with Navy SEAL and Congressman Dan Crenshaw, who needs no introduction. Thanks for joining us and hosting us over here in your office.
Yeah, thanks for being here. Congrats on the new podcast.
Thank you. Okay, so primary recently happened. Obviously, the results weren't what you wanted. Can you just walk us through a little bit about what you think kind of happened there? And
Yeah,
this.
I don't know. There's been a small sense of relief, like that's slowly accumulated since the election, and a bit of excitement about kind of just like what's possible next. So I guess I'm taking it well, but it's never how you want to go out. You don't want to go out on these people's terms. And who are these people? I mean, the online ankle biters that have been trying to take me down for years, and they don't even know why. These people don't even know why. And truly they don't. I mean, and if they do try to articulate some kind of reason why, they'll usually fall back onto, well, he tried to take away our Second Amendment. And you're like, what? How exactly was your Second Amendment threatened by me and all my votes and my co-sponsorships of constitutional carry and fighting with the ATF on pistol braces? And like they explain to me where exactly. How do you explain the NRA giving me an A+ rating and endorsement? Like, it's stuff like that, you know? And so it's just, I mean, they're still doing it even now, you know? It's like, oh, it's pretty funny. So this election was a real insight into, you know, like smear campaigns have always been part of politics, but smear campaigns in the digital era are pretty different. And they're especially different for somebody who has high name ID like I do. And so high name ID, Saturday Night Live and all that's a double-edged sword. You know, gave me a lot of fun and influence in the beginning, but of course it puts a target on your back too, because there's nothing, especially conservatives, there's nothing they love more than to tear down their own and figure out a reason why, even if they have to make it up. And it's sort of part of the culture, right? It's like, let's go rhino hunting. You know, the Democrats don't have a term like that, but the Republicans do. That's been going on for years and years and years. And it's been, I think the source of a lot of it is to Senator Cruz.
I was about to ask about his endorsement.
Yeah. I mean, that's been obvious to me for years and years and years. That's been obvious to me. He just finally pulled his mask off. Maybe he'll look better now. But like, why did you laugh? That was so mean. Are you saying he doesn't? Anyway, you laughed. I didn't laugh. You laughed. I was getting hold it together. There's no beef. He's just, I don't know if Cruz has any friends. You know, I mean, like the only obvious reasoning is like, he always viewed me as a threat, like a primary threat at some point.
It's kind of been like a weird tension there since he got here.
Enough so where like back in early 2021, I felt the need to talk to him and say, Senator, I will never primary you. Just so you know, never going to do it. Like, just, I know, I just want you to know that. No, I didn't say anything else. Didn't say what I knew about all his, because there was always somebody close to him just oddly just betraying me for no reason. You know, like Michael Berry, a radio host who's just this drunken, like cheating loser, who like, but he did get me elected my first term, you know? And so, but he, you know, and then he got mad at me because I wasn't paying enough ad money on his radio station back in the election in 2020. Sure enough, you know, right after that, he starts going crazy on me. And so it's all money with these guys. And, but it's death by a thousand cuts. And so yeah, a lot of it starts with Cruz donors, like this Robert Marling guy who was supporting a Cruz-backed candidate against Morgan Luttrell in the last election, and their big strategy for that super PAC was just to hire little MAGA influencers like Alex Brusiewicz, ex-strategy, these losers, and just start this cottage industry of slandering me online, just making crap up if they have to. It didn't matter what it was. And so, you know, again, the ties to Cruz are very obvious.
And do you think that's where the Freedom Caucus endorsing?
Oh, 100%. Yes. Yeah, I mean, yeah, if all that happened, well, Yeah, Cruz/Marling, like, because Marling's a big donor to them. Marling's a big donor to Turning Point. That all happened like the same day. Why? Because Marling was exposed that very day for being the banker behind Colony Ridge, which is the, like, what is a pretty hot topic in Texas. Colony Ridge is assessed to be, assumed by many voters to be, the safe haven for illegal immigrants and cartel activity, lots of crime, lots of, I mean, they had to do a large settlement with the state of Texas, predatory loan practices, I think. And so, that's always a hot topic, and everybody always knew the Harris brothers who developed the whole place. But nobody's known about Robert Marling's role in that. And so now everyone will, and I'll continue to make sure everyone knows it, because I don't think he wants that on his reputation. I think I'm going to make sure everybody knows who his big donors or who he donates to. And Cruz, he's a mega donor to Cruz. That's where all that came from. That it all happened like the same day. And so, like, it was this angry donor who didn't like his reputation being smashed. And too bad, Robert. Like, it's done now. And then he's calling all these groups and senators to you better stop Dan. He's calling Jim Jordan, telling him don't do any more events with him. He's literally doing all that kind of stuff. So there's that side of it, right? Like there's kind of this like one donor who just has a bone to pick. He doesn't even know why. He legit doesn't know why. Because if he comes up with a reason, it would be made up. Because that's really what gets to like the internet smear campaign. It's like voters were literally going into the booth and thinking a broad range of conspiracies. And again, people have been trying to write this history, being kind to me, saying it's about telling truth to power and all that. And voters weren't coming into the polls saying any of that. They weren't coming in talking about Trump or my support or lack of support for Trump. They didn't say anything about that. They were coming into the booth thinking, I made millions of dollars based on inside trading. All right. Now, it's just wild to me. I mean, people would take 2 hours out of their day to go vote, and then do one of two things: either go in, not do 5 seconds of Googling to see how untrue that is, or the many other smears that were against me. And I'll go through a couple of them. Or they would just take a slate. I don't know how big these are in other states, but in Texas they're pretty prevalent. So there's like a few guys who've been doing this for so many decades, and they've just Terry Lowry is one, Stephen Hotze is another one. Like, who are these people? Nobody knows. Nobody actually knows. But candidates pay them to be on their conservative slate, and they call it something fancy, and it seems like really legit. Oh man, I just got something from like the conservative group, and people just get those and go, okay, got it, and go in and vote. Like, why are you taking the time to vote? You're just going to read this piece of paper. You don't even know who wrote it or why. There's no explanations on it. Like, it's just a slate of candidates to vote because people don't. I mean, you've got the Senate, the House, the state reps, and county judge, but once you start going down the line, I mean, it's tough for people to know, like, who are these candidates? You're talking judges. We elect judges in Texas, so it's an easy button for people to press. And I don't.
Trump was a factor on the not getting endorsed. So I know you guys kind of had ups and downs going after you in the past. And
It just wasn't brought up. I mean, it's always helpful these days to have his endorsement. He's never endorsed me before, and I've never endorsed him. We do have a good relationship.
did he words?
Yeah, we were talking before too. I mean, we'll have meetings coming up. I mean, we always have a good relationship. I have a really good relationship with his pretty much entire national security team that we work with together closely. So, unclear what their reasoning was or wasn't. It would have helped, but it would have had to be done. It wouldn't have helped at the last minute, and it needed to be done earlier.
I mean, how were you surprised by the results looking into polling leading up on?
Yeah, a little. Yeah, we were a little surprised. Just because the ground truth was very different, just because we talked to every single person going into these polls, and so it raises a few questions there, but it is what it is. Yeah, and then just the polls were kind of everywhere too. So yeah, it was hard to tell. Our biggest mistake was not focusing entirely on all of these dozens of lies. So like insider trading is one. I mean, this is because it's so absurd that I'm like, people have to know, right? Because you can just Google this so quickly. You can ask Grok, you can ask AI. Like it'll just debunk it right away. Don't take my word for it. Like take what, there's plenty of sources, but people just will not do that research. Then on top of that, you've got almost $1 million spent by Democrats in this election, from all, December, January, like really just implanting into people's heads, especially that Mexico City story, which you did a great job debunking. But it was like, by the time we got it out to people, like it was just, people have been seeing it on TV forever. And I'm like,
Bad for that. I mean, I guess for those who haven't read the story, I guess can you walk us through just kind of
yeah. I mean, like basically you got Jake Sherman, who's this dweeb of a reporter that people love to talk to around here to sell their most salacious and ill-informed source shallow story. And he gets his hands on this story about this incident in Mexico. Now he ends up writing the incident somewhat correctly. Like, yes, there was a toast at 3 p.m. with Mexican generals, as there always is, like at the end of a meeting, and then we make like military guy kind of jokes, and one was inappropriate and offended some staffer, and that's it. That's it. That's the truth. That is what happened, and I would do it again, because it's like that's how you build relationships with Mexican generals. That's how you have those good relationships. Because that's
never
some
apologize for taking a good time.
yeah, that's the military guys do that. It's like we make jokes, but it's like, but then he writes this headline that's very salacious about a travel ban, which wasn't really true, and a travel ban because of an alcohol-related incident in Mexico, and then you can't get to the story that explains it because there's a paywall. And so Democrats then take that headline and then they put hundreds of thousands of dollars behind it on TV. And so Republican voters wake up. Like, you were watching a Democrat talk to you, and it is a Democrat talking to them. It's my opponent. It was a Democrat opponent. He's a self-funder. So good luck, Republicans, keeping this seat. So he's literally, you've got a Democrat telling you these things, and he's referencing a headline from a left-wing reporter in DC, and you're buying it. Like, come on, guys. It's just it's mind-blowing. And then of course there's that, like, the CIA cable that they did, and that's really what we debunked that with your story. And because Jake Sherman also wrote another story, just to give everyone a background, that the CIA had complained and written, like, oh my God, we're complaining about his behavior and all these things in a top secret cable, which just wasn't true. And it's like it took a while to debunk it because nobody wants to talk about a classified document. So this gets to a bigger question about who's fabricating a classified document, who is lying about a classified document. It's one of the two. There's no other options. You either fabricated it, showed it to Jake, lied about it, told Jake, or Jake is lying and just made it up. I don't really know. We're gonna find out one day. But the point is like that had a huge effect as well, because if we were like listening to people come in, the really top three were this like insider trading, got rich in Congress BS. It doesn't matter. We're like, hey, here are the facts. I've done my accounting. Like, I've made $46,000 over 7 years. That's your millions right there. Haven't made a trade in 3 years. So you've been slandering me with this for years. It's like, haven't made an actual trade. How can you be an inside trader if you're not trading? 3 years. Doesn't matter. Like these facts, it takes a lot of effort to get people these facts. So if we made a mistake, it was simply like, and I kind of knew this from the beginning, and I have my qualms with people I worked with, but it was, in the end, like, we relied too much on traditional campaigning of like, look, show people the good things you've done, and then contrast that with the voting record, which happens to be terrible, of your opponents. And that just doesn't work. It doesn't work because people can't see all the good things you've accomplished if they think you've made millions, inside trading in Congress.
just through like the influencer noise of different disinformation in like the new day and age? I mean, if you're just being infiltrated with it, or is it that
It's not, I guess. Like, I mean, not when it's like, no, again, it's not like most politicians deal with that. I mean, I'm very unique in that sense. It's like my name is just clickbait. And so, you know, yeah, I don't know if it's a lesson for politicians. I don't think politicians generally deal with what I deal with, unless your name is Donald Trump. Because nobody has that kind of like that clickbait, like cottage industry surrounding their name. I'm just very lucky like that. So it's really just a lesson to voters. It's like, all kinds of voters, right? So first of all, the 1 in 5 GOP, 20% of voters even bother to vote in this election. That's about normal. So the lesson to all of them, like, if you're going to vote, at least, like, don't believe everything you read online. Don't believe Democrats who are talking to you on TV. Try to assess what's happening here. Do some research. It's like the red flag laws thing is another thing that popped up so much. Like we've been debunking that for like 6 years successfully, whereas like even like a lot of big 2A names have like debunked it. Just doesn't matter. It's like people forget, and then they see it in an ad and they're like, yeah, must be true. You're like,
Do you think leadership should have come out to bat for you more or been on the trail?
oh yeah, they didn't do crap. And I heard that the NRCC decided to spend money in Tony Gonzalez's race, whereas he's like a real scandal. See, so like hilariously, my scandals are all BS. They're all just lies, total lies. Like there's no incident in Mexico. There's no insider trading. There's no red flag law act. It's like I literally introduced the anti-red flag law act every session. Every single session I introduced that bill.
What were our chats with like Mike Johnson and Rich Hudson over at NRCC about trying to get them to level up during the course of all this when the primary really kind of became more of a thing?
I mean, I didn't push them. I didn't think NRCC even played in primaries. Hearing of them doing it in Tony Gonzalez's race was kind of the first. That is kind of new. So it didn't even occur to me to ask. The reality is, even if they had it, they weren't going to do it right. There was outside expenditures going in, but they were all doing it wrong. They were, and my campaign was even doing it wrong again. There was too much traditional campaigning. And so the lesson to be learned is like, don't listen to consultants. Consultants will tell you, don't repeat all the lies. It goes above people's heads. You need, that's bullshit.
I
Like,
think RCC should start playing in primaries.
yeah, they should. I've always said that. I mean, if the party is going to be a party, then there needs to be gatekeepers. Like there has to be. That's the whole point of a party.
I mean, there's slim margins right now. I mean, what do you make of leadership? I mean, obviously, they ended up ultimately asking Tony Gonzalez not to run again after that whole situation. Still have members like Corey Mills, who I know
Yeah.
has had his fair share of scandals, and ask for thoughts on that, on them kind of,
Yeah.
should they be doing more to navigate, I guess, members that are kind of.
Yeah.
actually
Well,
doing
you're in a unique
that.
like world right now because the speaker just doesn't have a majority. So his hands are very much tied in many of these cases. So I think in normal times though, you should boot him right out. Not Tony, but like Corey Mills for sure, just based on the number of scandals going on there. I mean, although Tony's, would be an ethics violation because it was with a staffer. So yeah, there's that. But yeah, no, it's you should always err on the side of cleaning house, but unfortunately, you can't do it if the consequence is handing over control of the House to Democrats, which is what it would be given our slim majority. So I'm not a million% critical of leadership for the tough situation that they're
Do you
in.
think Mike Johnson should be handling things differently with some of this stuff, or do you think he should just like the
Well, he shouldn't be.
circumstances he's given her?
I mean, it shouldn't be NRCC money. Shouldn't be going to these races. That's for sure. I mean, that's for sure. It's. And that is something I'll be having conversations with him about. They shouldn't go to my race because my race is now going to be very competitive. A much more powerful Democrat running against the huge loser of a Republican. And I mean, really, like a low IQ guy who's done nothing for his district, and like he wasn't running on his own credentials. He was running on the hopes that he was running on the coattails of internet slanders against me. and a Democrat will be able to take advantage of that. I mean, there's a reason they spent almost $1 million trying to slander me on this race because
Was the Democrat in that race?
no, but there's a reason they spent almost $1 million to try and beat me. And that guy literally told me, his name's Sean Finney. He's like, oh, I'd rather run against Toth than you, of course, because we can beat him. And that's possible in even it's still a red district, but it's it's like I think an R10ish. It's in an election year like this one, it's not crazy, and there's no need for the NRCC shouldn't be wasting money on that. You need to be wasting or spending money. It wouldn't be a waste, but spending money on our frontliners, our typical decent Republicans that are winning hard districts. That's who you should be spending the money on, not Corey Mills or my district.
So, I mean, you've been up here 7 years or 7 years. And have you seen things? I mean, obviously things have changed a lot up here, and institutions kind of. I mean, the dynamics have been different. I mean, I guess what do you make of like your time here, and what do you think needs to change to get things functional?
It's not here. It's the country. Like Washington is a perfect representation of you, the people. Whether you want to know it or not, that's the truth. It's especially the House. The House has always been designed by the founders to be the people's national sentiment. It's a very nationalist like a body, right? The Senate is not. It's supposed to be this more kind of federal body, and that makes sense. And so the House is short terms, 2 years. It's designed to be to represent the emotions of the people, and it really does. The average IQ is about 100, and they got.
I think the average IQ of Congress is 100.
That's what I'm saying. That's my point. Yeah. Yes. Same as in society. Like it represents society, whether you like it or not. And
Your dumbest colleague.
oh, I don't. That's too hard of a question. There's so many. I won't name them. There's a lot. There's a lot of smart ones. That's my point. Like there's a lot of dumb ones. There's a lot of smart ones. There's a lot of hard workers. There's a lot of lazy do nothings.
It's sometimes operates kind of like a reality TV. It would make for like a great dark comedy.
Yeah.
So, what are some of the weirdest things you've seen during your time here? Or like most interesting off camera?
When I first got here, we had to do like a ethics training, and it was just such a hilarious group of people. I had like Jerry Nadler sitting next to me, he was asleep on his belly, and people just kept asking the stupidest questions. I wish I could remember them. It was like this lawyer is trying to go through a PowerPoint, and the whole point is that she just gets through it so that we just listen, like we've checked our box and we go. But people would the members just need to pontificate. They need to get on their soapbox and talk. And it's wild to me. And so throughout that entire 1 or 2 hour ordeal, members would just be like, okay, so I have a staff. They just wanted to tell their story about their little stupid situation that wasn't even relevant to what the lady was saying up in front. It was just, I was just like, everyone, there was a few of us, again, the few of us with IQs, we were like, what is happening here? Shut up. Just shut up. And at some point it got so bad, Maxine Waters actually just pushed the lawyer to the side, just started giving a speech about whatever her story was. It's like you can't make this up. That's made for TV. That's made for TV. Every day I see it, especially I guess in conference, and I'm sure the same happens in the Democrat conference. People are getting up, and I'm like, what are you talking about right now? And because what they're doing is they're channeling the craziest person that they can think of from their own town hall, and they're just saying that. That's not your job up here. Your job is to absorb what you hear back in the district and then translate it to policy, real policy within the world of the real government and the real world, and contextualize it and then figure out solutions. You don't just complain to the group. Why are you doing that? You might as well you're just another guy on the street just complaining about crap and wondering why you don't know the answer. You should just know the answer. It gets to this war with Iran. People are like, we don't know why. Why aren't you explaining it to us? Why don't you know? I'm sorry, why don't you? You're a congressman. Why don't you know? Do you really not know the situation in the Middle East? Like, you're a federal representative. You're not like a county judge, just deals with like local issues. Like, you're a fucking federal representative. Why the fuck don't you know anything? Why are you yelling for answers like you're just some person on the internet? So you've got like but that's what people want. That's the flip side of that. It's like people want their representatives to act like them. And when you don't, well, you're not one of us. It's like, no, I want you to be angry. I want you to yell at a wall like I do.
So
It's like, what is going on here?
there's like a balance. So I feel like social media has definitely like kind of changed who runs for Congress. There's posts people that just kind of want to be famous. It's kind of the
Mhm.
dynamics of changed since YouTube and Instagram and Twitter have become a thing where these personalities can get out there. And like you kind of came up and made a name for yourself. You've got a podcast. I guess what's finding the balance of being able to be a serious legislator while
Yeah,
being able to
I know. And I take
support
some
us?
blame for like the opening the door for that. Because people thought they were like copying me. And I was like, no, you're not. You're not copying me. I do that stuff for a purpose. Like, because I'm trying to draw people into a serious policy conversation. I know I have to do that by marketing and entertaining them. You're just entertaining them to get more clicks for yourself. That's a very different thing. And you have no principles that drive you toward it. Like, I'm not going to say who I'm thinking of, but like, there's plenty. And so that's the problem is like yeah, it happened with my class for sure. Cause you had like the Democrat squad and then you had me and and the Democrat squad was also like the inspiration for a Republican kind of squad. And you saw that happen. And, neither have had very lasting, uh, reputations or effects, to be honest. And you can kind of see that, like, you don't hear a lot about the squad from either side anymore. Because in the end, like, you're supposed to just do work. But, so that's what I did. But I'm punished for it. But again, it doesn't mean you'll always get punished for just doing work. I don't want that message to be sent to politicians or even telling the truth or whatever. It's just, I have a very specific like attraction from grifters online to just make up crap about me because it gets them engagement. When they get engagement, they make money.
I mean, do you regret it all in retrospect? I mean, on Twitter, kind of getting into it with some of these people.
Probably, but it happens very rarely compared to what people think it did. If you really actually do some metrics on like how often do I actually just respond to somebody? Yeah, I mean, and also like a simple response to somebody shouldn't be that big of a deal. Members do it all the time. Um,
Who's been the hardest person to work with up here and easiest on both sides of the aisle?
oh, okay. Well, working with people is an interesting question because like I get asked about this a lot and by donors and voters and like groups like the Tuesday group or the problem solvers group. And I'm like, well, I'm not a part of those. And they're like, why? I'm like, well, because there's no point. Because it's usually a bunch of freshmen who ran on problem solving, and that's great for them. But this is not a group of people with any pull. Um, if you need a Democrat to work with, like you need to find the right one on the right committee with the right seniority. There's a number of factors that go into that. And so it's less about personality and a lot more about like who is where. That's how you actually get things done. Um,
Who's been the biggest asshole to work with?
I just wouldn't work with them, I guess. I'm not sure. I've encountered like somebody who I've tried to work with and they've just been an asshole. I don't know that that's even happened. I mean, because I know who the assholes are, I wouldn't try to work with them. I don't need to work with them because they're not on the right like committee for it. Obviously, I do have an answer to that question, but I'm going to wait until the end of the year to tell it to really blow that one up.
Maybe these want to get done through the remainder of the year. And I know, like, a big concern for leadership is members that aren't ready again or have lost primaries about just, like, not showing up for votes. Like, are you definitely
Should be concerned, but I bet there's some members like that. I don't know if anybody else lost a primary except Tony. That's a
It's
little
less
different.
about me.
Yeah, but that's different. Those are all different, right? I mean, I'm a pretty unique case, whereas like you guys left me out, you hung me out to dry for years. You did, and they know it.
It was
But I'm
never
also,
so
but I'm
nice.
also not trying to leverage them too much. I mean, my priorities are my intel work, and my intel work, and my intel work, and appropriations requests that are associated with that, and associated with national security in my district. That's it.
I wasn't like zero said our day seal. I guitarist members, I get butcher it. Psychedelics, ibogaine, that sort of thing. What are your thoughts on
Well, we kind of
that
did
sort
our
of stuff?
work on that. I mean, I got that bill through 2023. I always chuckle to myself as I watch like Morgan Luttrell and like try to take credit for it. He actually screwed the whole thing up as we got it through. I had to get it fixed. But in any case, we got that done, and like that opened the floodgates for removing the stigma on it, and um, you know, it was $10 million that we got into the DoD that basically forced them to fund clinical trials on a number of psychedelics from ibogaine to MDMA to psilocybin. Um, and then it wasn't appropriated the next time because again, all these the psychedelics caucus guys, they don't actually do anything. They don't actually do anything. They've never done any bills. Like it blows me away. Like that's why like,
Most of the caucuses that aren't like formal
they don't do
committees.
crap. They just like have meetings, and I was like, I've been doing this for years, and I was like, we'd have these meetings, and like these veterans would come up and tell their sob stories. I'm like, why do we keep making these veterans come up here? We already know what to do. How about we do it? And so I finally got it done. And realized that we couldn't just add an amendment to the NDAA. This gets to kind of some, legislative civics stuff, which is knowing how to legislate, and like, to make the mistake the first couple of years of just adding an amendment to an NDAA. That doesn't work. Okay. You've got to get into the base text of the NDAA. All right. So I find somebody on HASS to do that. So I used Morgan, the day of the markup, Morgan's staff, and he lets them, Morgan's staff completely rewrites it to basically call for a study. And I threw a fit. I was like, I will find out which staff did this. I will put you online. I will say you're killing veterans. Like, do not mess with me. And they were like, okay, we got it fixed. But also goes to show like new members coming up here, like they don't know how to work this stuff. They took total advantage of Morgan, and like the professional staff did. And once again, that's just a bigger lesson about, be careful what you wish for when you get new people up here who don't know anything. Like you need people to stay a little bit while, because that was a lesson learned.
Term limits bad.
It's a little lesson learned for me. It was a lesson learned for him. Like, and so anyway, I got it fixed, and that won't be a priority for me this year, because I feel like we've already gotten done. If they want to appropriate more money, great, but it's just already opened the floodgates. Texas is putting $50 million behind ibogaine. Like that's way more than federal ever was going to. So if we're going to do anything on that front, it's getting FDA and DEA to reschedule some of these. So DEA to reschedule it, but FDA to create firmer, well, at least for ibogaine, to create clinical trial guidelines. That's a really important step. They've done that for MDMA and psilocybin. So that's really the next battlefront there. It's not so much just more funding. I'm not going to push for that.
Do you think for the push for some of the new members for term limits bad idea?
There's always that. Every time somebody comes to Congress, like they think they're not going to get elected unless they sign the term limits pledge. And then you realize how stupid that is. And so I stopped signing it because it's freaking stupid. Like, okay. And I can convince any voter of this, but they do need to be convinced in person. Like, it's an easy conversation to have with, I've done it a million times with like the most staunch voters on this. And I'm like, okay, look, and I'll say like, look, like I support term limits too. Like we'd have to talk about the years, and it would be a lot higher than I think, definitely not 6 years, which is like the pledge asked. It's insane. So what, like the Speaker of the House is going to have 4 years of experience? That's insane. But so I'll support something, but it's going to be higher, first of all. But second of all, I'm going to be truthful with you about all the downsides of term limits. And And they're pretty easy. It's like, one, you're institutionalizing inexperience. That's fundamental to term limits. You are institutionalizing inexperience. Like in a SEAL team, like we wouldn't like celebrate that a platoon is full of new guys. That's insane. You need like you need like a few new guys. You need like some middle kind of experienced guys. You need some very experienced guys. That's how any organization functions. And then here you are empowering them. I'm like, am I empowering you, the people? They're like, yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm like, well, how so exactly? Well, because then Nancy Pelosi can't get elected again. I'm like, oh, wait a second. No, so you want to take power away from her voters? Just to be clear. And they're like, well yeah, yeah, that's what you want to do, because you want to keep voting for your representative or not. Like again, you have term limits, by the way. It's every 2 years you can vote your rep out. So first of all, what you're really asking for is power over other people's congressmen. That's the first thing. And you talk to voters, that's always what it is. They're always talking about somebody else in some other district. Okay, well, that's not your district. So what's your problem exactly? You just want to take, and also get rid of Nancy Pelosi. Who do you think her voters are going to vote in? Probably somebody who identifies as a purple-haired dolphin on Thursdays. Like, that's San Francisco, for fuck's sake. Like, it's like, that's who you're going to get. So you're not going to improve your lot, okay? And second of all, who are you empowering? Well, definitely not you, the people, but you're empowering staff, professional staff for sure. Again, like just the example I just gave you about the psychedelics issue. These are staff as a professional staff in some committees. Some committees, I would say, like in the intelligence committee is by far the best, as far as like the staff really feels like it's there to work for you, and work for members' priorities. But and some other committees, like, man, you like, there's plenty of stories of professional staffers like literally saying like to each other, like, your job is to manage members. I mean, it's like, who the fuck hired you? Like, you didn't fucking get elected. Like, people need to know this stuff. And they'll be like, oh, well, we'll give them term limits too. It's like, well, then you're gonna have people just don't know anything, because the reality is these professional staffers, they at least know things, right? They have a lot of facts on their side, and like, they are useful to us. So you can't just institutionalize more inexperience either. And then you move out of that, the administrative state. It's like, that's the deep state. Now you have no pull if you're just always a bunch of lame duck members. So once you make all those, and I'm like, okay, so again, tell me again what the advantages are to term limits, and nobody can really think of any. So there we go. And again, if they do, it's like, well, pin Nancy Pelosi. I'm like, okay, but then I'll use the purple-haired dolphin example, and nobody can disagree with that, because it's totally true. It's like, it's freaking San Francisco, dude. Like, who do you think it's gonna be worse, to be honest?
So main thing that you want to get done before you leave at the end of the year.
Like I said, I'm going to finish out, because I chair the Defense Intelligence Subcommittee. I'm going to continue to do that work. It's fulfilling work, and there's certain projects that need to happen within that world that I'm pretty focused on. So I can't say much more than that. It's enough to keep me around, and like, it's worth doing. You guys, the party has betrayed me. That seems pretty obvious, but I'm not here to raise your blood pressure either. I just want unfettered access to doing my own job as I see fit, and don't want any arguments about my appropriations requests.
So last question for you. I guess, what are you thinking next moves?
Oh, there's plenty of options, but it's been like 5 minutes, so it's hard to say. I will not be a lobbyist. That sounds like the most miserable job I can take. But the I don't know. There's media options, I suppose. There's
So link up with P. Davidson.
he's an asshole. Because after our whole like nice like moments in the his Netflix special the next year was like, screw Dan Crenshaw. I was like, what the fuck is your problem? So yeah, no, he's not cool. But I don't. Yeah, there's options there, but something in the national security and intelligence world is where I would naturally land. But I have no idea. We're just gonna kind of play it by ear. But it's also one of the reasons I will continue to do this job to the at 100%. Because that's what I love. So that's what's kept me here anyway.
Would you run for anything again? I guess it's my actual last question.
Oh, I mean, I'm not right now. No, not not even considering it. No, the Republican Party is obviously going through a serious civil war, a civil war that I've been fighting for a long time. So this is kind of another way to contextualize my election and everything that's happened. Is I've been fighting the Civil War for years, as you know. Like, I've been fighting Tucker Carlson for years. I've been seeing the grifters for years. Now it's normal for Republican influencers and whatnot to be calling out the grifters. Well, that's great, guys. But you left me wounded on the battlefield. I never fucking had my back. And you know how many times, I mean, the number of times over the years I've heard from so many members and so many people, Dan, we've got your back. Appreciate what you're doing. And I'm like, that's really nice that you silently have my back. You're literally behind me, having my back. You're looking at my back while I take all the bullets. That's what's been going on for years, and that's how you get this outcome.
Actually, I guess one more question. Of those people, is there anyone that really shocked you that thought that you'd gone out, stumped for, that like, you kind of went on a limb for it?
Oh, so many, so many. I mean, so many. I have so many regrets on people I've supported.
Who are the biggest regrets?
Let me just tell you the ones I'm really proud of. I put my neck out real big for Jake LZ, and that was a good one. So I'm just going to be positive. I'm just going to say the good ones. August Pfluger, I raised a lot of money for him. He's a good guy. Beth Van Dyne, another good one. So it's they're not all bad, but I have helped so many people. I mean, I spent my first few years just doing nothing but favors for people, and working for my district, getting $200 million. But so I thought people cared about flood mitigation. Maybe I was wrong, but like saving people's lives and property. I thought that mattered. It's like this is a very cynical view, but like you're not so sure that politics and elections are about work in the end. I have no evidence that it is. I have all the evidence to the contrary, and that's a sad thing to say. Because like the contrast could not have been clearer in this particular instance. But no, I'm not going to call people out on who I regret supporting right now. Anyway, right now, down the line, maybe. I mean, you mentioned Corey Mills. Like, I mean, I was telling leadership about Corey Mills. I knew all that crap about. I remember telling. We were about that his run-in with a bunch of Georgia prostitutes that must have snuck into his bedroom and made him have sex with them. I'm sure that, right? It could have been an accident. But yeah, now it's all out in the open. I knew that years ago. And I was, yeah, okay. Yeah, I didn't want to bring you into that unless you wanted to be, but like, we just couldn't make it happen. And I was like, guys, like, this guy's bad news. I'm telling you. So like history will always, I've learned it too, that just as long as you just keep doing the right things, like history will tell the truth eventually. Like eventually people are going to realize I don't have a lot of money from insider trading. Like it's like eventually that's going to be a thing, like that people know, like even only crazy people who believe it, like eventually it's going to be like, that wasn't true. It's, it just, a lie cannot be, it just can't be for that much longer, and I have an interest in continuing to like say that. That's why I'm not willing to just like, just give the same old, like, we win some, you lose some, and we're going to move on. No, I'm not going to say that. I'm going to say what happened. People went in there believing that I was an inside trader, voted for red flag laws, and was running around Mexico with a bottle of tequila and no pants on. Like it's what they believed. This is just nonsense. Like there's just straight up lies. Or the one they really hit me on in this election. I don't know how much it affected it. I think it was really those first three, but voted for all these unvetted Afghans to come to our country with Democrats. It's like, dude, like, everybody voted for that bill. 413 members voted for it. People don't, So you've got to do so much explaining, detailed explaining, and then you'll get people if they'll listen. But when you have 12 different lies to tell, and we got a 10-page document that it's like you're screwed. I mean, in this, so it's or my opponent could just take advantage of that because this is all pre-existing nonsense. Um, yeah, you're just so because I got asked on Face the Nation like, what's the lesson for the Republicans? And I'm like, I'm not sure there's a lesson for politicians because I'm unique. Like, I don't think they have to worry about this kind of bullshit. But it is a lesson for voters. Are you really going to believe everything you read on the internet? Like, when are you going to start asking for citations? Because if I present you with something about my opponent, there's going to be citations. It's going to be, no, he voted this way. Like, it's proof, period. But you're just going to believe that I voted for red flag laws? Why don't they ever say the bill? Why is the bill that I supposedly voted on never brought up? Ever. Why? Maybe because it's not real. Like, and so, but it's death by a thousand cuts, and people have a propensity to think, well, if there's so much of it, I mean, maybe a lot of it's not true, but some of it must be true. And I don't know, I don't like it.
No plans to drop into the background in coming months. Going to keep out there doing your podcast.
Yeah,
Defend
yeah,
yourself.
just telling the truth, and just but maintaining our sense of principle. I mean, again, because a lot of people want to believe this is like a Trump thing. And it's like we have a good relationship. Plus, I really like what he's doing. So it's hard for me to. I'm not gonna like turn on Trump either, which is like what people might expect. Like go to the Adam Kinzinger route. I don't think there's a lot of honor in that. And like this is I like what they're doing, and we're watching this civil war happen where Trump is taking the right side of it. Um, and I mean that in every way, like the correct side, the like but also the right side. I mean the conservative side. I think the other side is a populist liberal side that has a lot more to do. That looks a lot more like AOC's squad and Tucker Carlson. Again, I don't know what the difference is at this point. Than it does a Reagan conservative party, and I think Trump is rightfully doing what I would advise him to do, which is you don't need to think about the next election. Fuck the next election. You need to be thinking about your legacy 10, 20 years from now, because all of this short-term pain right now that everybody's mad about, if you're right, and if you see these things through with Venezuela, Cuba, Iran, Russia, you will be remembered as the president that realigned the world and allowed us to 1000% focus on China and took all of their little busybody allies off the table. Like, that's what you can be remembered for if you see this through. Like, fuck the short-term pain is there. And now we should talk about the short-term pain so American people understand the grand strategy. But, anyway, point is, I have zero reason to be turning against them. Like, I like it. So, I'm going to continue just being truthful. That's it. And I'm just not going to care a little less about people's feelings. I think that's the only difference you'll see from me moving forward.
Oh, well, they'll be excited to watch. Thanks for letting us hang out in your office. We appreciate you come potting with us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, thank you guys for tuning in, and make sure to subscribe to our newsletter at sourcessay.news and subscribe to our YouTube channel.